the Thursday morning of the 17th. I'm actually jumping into this right now because I'm gonna go to church in the next 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but I was reading the text for Thursday and the Wednesday, and it's the pearl of great price. The faith is the pearl of great price, and the guy finds it, he sells everything to get the pearl, okay? And what I think is this, whatever it's worth, there's judgment built into the second reading, which is the fishnet. You keep the good stuff and you throw the bad stuff away, or else you throw it in the fire. Okay, so the judgment theme comes up, but the first part is interesting. In the pearl of great price, it's not like there's a bite to it. There isn't a bite, but there is a cost. And the pearl of good price, the pearl, it costs you to believe. It's not free. It costs you because it radicalizes your life. And it's the pearl of great price. Did I say that right? I mean, maybe getting my rhetoric all wrong, but you get it. It costs you. It's a pearl, but it's a precious pearl. But it ain't free because once you commit to it, once you see the pearl, you're going to try to buy it, and it'll cost you. It'll cost you a great deal. And in his time, in St. Matthew's time, that cost you your life. It'll certainly cost you your family. It'll cost you your neighbors and your friends. It's the pearl of great price. It's a great price. It's everything you were familiar with in the synagogue, in your religious community, in your family. But it's a pearl. And she's beautiful. That's the truth. The pearl. And I think our young people today are going to, if they see, think the analogy, if they see the church, not just look at it, let alone merely historically, then they see that in her fleshiness she is beautiful, then they'll give it all. They will give their hearts to the church. The church meaning the body of Christ, the people of God, the church, the whole of the reality. If not, they won't. But they first must see it. See, when Christ walks by, the disciples see him and then they follow him. They see and then they listen, but they have to see him first. And then their hearts are open and they listen. And I think whatever it has made me think about it, I'm sitting in my rocker right now, just getting ready to go to church, okay? And I was thinking about the pearl of great price. To me, it was the Passionist. I have to say that. And it did. At the time, I'm thinking 50, 60 years ago. I left home 63 years ago. 64 years ago. It'll be this summer, it'll be 64 years. And that I left. And at that time in our community, when you left, you left. You left your family, you left everything behind. I remember that, how vivid it was. It opened up, it became way more liberalized. I don't mean liberal, but liberalized later. But when I left home in 1959, I didn't expect to ever come home again. Because at that time, they weren't coming home in the summer or Christmas. It all changed in my time, and it changed almost immediately. See? But you have to say, it wasn't before. So you had kids that were joining the order who were only 14 years old. They were just kids. They were going to high school. They didn't go home. It was that radicalized. I remember thinking that and feeling that. In some ways, as an 18-year-old, it was my friends as much as my family, if not more so. But also silly things. My shotgun was 16. When I was 16, my dad gave me a shotgun, okay? I still have it, okay? But I hated to leave my shotgun. You know, my fishing rods, I still have them. Well, I don't have the one I got. Yeah, I think I still have one of them, but I definitely have the shotgun. I have it on the wall. See? It's the truth. You're thinking, but it was a way of life too, and you left it. You left it. And in the order was that time, you left it. You left everything. And you went into the order where the order would take you. That's the truth. So I understand the apostles, the calling. When my niece Michelle asked me why I became a Passionist and a priest, I said, because I felt called. There's no answer to that. It was my idea. As I was kidding around at Mass the other day, I said I was chasing girls in kindergarten, okay? This was that. My mother said, you're nuts, you'll never make it as a priest. She was right about that. Me, I am nuts. But I have persevered, whatever it's worth. But it's just the truth is, I felt called. It's not because I saw some noble about the priesthood at all. felt called. And especially when I made a retreat in the Passionist Monastery, because of my brother, because he and Al, my friend Al, they made the retreat in high school, with their class, and they said it was great. And then we were, what do you call those guys? The Knights of Columbus. It was the Squires were having a retreat, so I said, oh, okay, I'll go. I sat there in the pew and I heard the greatest preaching I'd ever heard in my life. It was Benedict Maughan. God, he was good. And we took a trip around the monastery, and this was everything I didn't want any part of. No, I didn't want any of this stuff. I was stuck enough becoming called to the priesthood and celibacy, but the last thing I wanted was poverty and all the rest that went with it. Last thing I wanted. I thought, God, come on. I said, I got to do this thing. I got to do it, but yeah. And as I walked through the monastery and I saw the beds that were made out of cut horses, they were cut down wood horses and a straw mattress and straw pillows, I felt called. I didn't know what order it was. I remember asking Joe Leo Flynn, what order is this, the Passionist? I said, I'll join you. I'll join you. All of a sudden, I felt called to a heroic religious life. The very stuff I rejected, now I embraced. Okay, in for a dime, in for a dollar. It's the truth. That's simply the truth. I think I'm just thinking about that calling and the cost that goes with it. The calling at the time of Christ and the time of the apostles could have been a calling into martyrdom. In my time, maybe calling into religious marriage. It's a calling, and with it comes responsibilities and sacrifice, a cost. It is the pearl of great price, but it is a great price. You've got to pay the price. If you're unwilling to pay it, you will never have the pearl. Think about marriage. If you go in there selfishly, I guarantee you your marriage will be at best stale, empty, and maybe never last. If you go into it with a generous heart and willing to sacrifice for your spouse or your family, you want to give, okay? Then you will have a marvelous marriage because of the sacrifice of your heart. Because you want to give. I told you the saddest time of the year for me in my monastic years, when I lived intensely monastically in New York especially, was Christmas, because I had no one to give a gift to. See? I can imagine those of... I just can't imagine loving somebody, not wanting to give them gifts which are sacraments of your heart, that you don't want to sacrifice for them. You want to. I knew a guy never gave his wife a gift, or his children. Holy cow. Holy cow. How can you do that and still think you're going to have a marriage or a family that will revere and love you? You didn't love them. You didn't love them. When you love, you give. It's an action. You give from your heart, your soul. You sacrifice. It's not because it's painful, but because it's heroic. You want to. You want to go the extra mile. You want to cherish and love in an active, symbolic way. That's the truth. That is the truth. I think that's the hardest thing about celibacy. It's not the absence of sexual experience. I think it's the absence of someone whom you can give to. I think that's the hardest part. It's a radical loneliness, even when you're in community with others. It's a radical loneliness that you can't give yourself, body and soul, to someone else. Give it, not take it, give it. Now, I mean that too. It's a loneliness of the heart, because you have no one to give your heart to, not grab, give to. I think that's right.